Welcome back to the True Sports Physical Therapy Podcast. Jack Rasmussen is back for his second iteration. And the reason I wanted to have you back on as the founder of Caddix Cleats is you guys have been up to so much. I think it's been like 4 months since I had you on. And it's like a totally different company. When I had you on last, you guys had some ideas. You had a shoe. We were talking about putting the cleat on some people. And now this thing has skyrocketed and gone bonkers. So let's start with, give me a brief overview of what Caddix is, as if no one heard our first version, how you came to it, and then tell me about what you've been up to the last 4 months.
Totally. Caddix, we make cleats and the studs flex in any direction, and that flexion point is proven to reduce that rotational force from the ground up. That causes a ton of ankle and knee injuries and potentially hip injuries. And I don't want to get into the nitty gritty details of my story because it's very long.
Get it. Give me the highlights.
My dad and I were watching a game 10 years ago. Someone went down, non-contact situation. We were like, that doesn't look right. Let's do something about it. As a college dropout, as an advertiser, who he was, we're like, we can figure this out.
I'm sure you can figure it out.
So yeah, just a lot of hard work and luck, and a lot of people who are smart on us surrounding us, and just a lot of going for it. But studied biomechanics and physics for a year. Taught myself everything to know. A lot of mad scientist moments. The first iteration was not studs. It was more like a shoe sole. It was kind of flex, and it was layered. And those layers each had a job to do in terms of how it would move.
And it was going to be regular cleats, but the sole moved.
Correct.
Okay.
And I was going to go to basketball shoes, tennis shoes, court, whatever. But we realized that kind of from a manufacturing standpoint, that breaks a lot of protocol. And it compromises stack height. You can't have a too thick sole. It can't be too heavy. There's a lot of intricacies in footwear that we don't realize.
Where'd you find that information?
So we have a team in Oregon, and they're called iGenerator. They're like I call them the shoe gurus. I don't think they like that very much. They've been working in the industry for decades, like with the big dogs, Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, Puma. So I came to them with this idea during after I wrote the patent, after we got approved, after I raised a bit of money. During COVID, I found them, and I was like, "This is my idea." And they're like, "Nah, we're not going to do that." I'm like, "Please." And then they said, "If we can take my functionality and implement it in the studs, then we could talk." So they kind of figured out how to do that, and they were the ones that told us about all the stuff, all the stack height, all the nuances that we had no idea. I mean, you don't know until you know.
They work in just shoes?
Yeah.
Okay, so they know everything about shoes. Why'd they originally say, "Get the hell out of here"? Is it because you were a housekeeper?
Dude, you can't bring that up with no context.
You look like a housekeeper.
I do feel that face. So they said no because it sounded kind of impractical. My first version was impractical. It just was. But then they said, if we can take what you want to do and put it in studs, that won't break any manufacturing protocol. It'll be easier, quote unquote, easier, not easy, but easier. And it'll make more sense to people. So.
Okay. So you have that idea to get movable studs. Mm-hmm. That was your idea. Once they tell you, hey, the sole thing's not going to work.
Yeah. So I think when I started this, I had like a notebook of like drawings about how to get the cleat to move.
Do you have any background in this crap?
No.
Nothing?
No. You're
like, this might work. Here's a notebook. Let me. Okay. So then how long does it take to get to this?
So 10 years, but hold on real quick. But 5 years of that was waiting for the patent to get approved. So my dad and I wrote the first patent when I was like 19. And that took until 4.5 years later to get approved. I couldn't do anything while I was getting looked over. I couldn't raise money. I mean, you don't have proof, a patent, or data, and you can't do anything with it. So it wasn't until 2019 in August where I got approved, and I was like, okay, now we can do this. So then I started raising money, and then kind of getting tested at universities out west, and just kind of getting into this industry. So I'd say it took a total of 5 years without that significant break.
Okay, so 5 years, you're kind of spitballing, putting stuff together. How do you take your idea and make it an actual shoe?
Obsession. I mean, I guess that's called what it is.
Who makes the shoe?
We have a manufacturer in Hong Kong, China.
So you went over there?
I didn't go over there. So the team, iGenerator, they're the MVPs of this whole thing. They really are.
Okay.
I'm just a psycho with an idea. Like, those guys make it happen on all fronts, in my opinion. They have manufacturing in Hong Kong and everywhere else, but they have an employee in China who works directly with the manufacturer. the factory itself. So that's who makes our stuff. And that's who's always made our samples and prototypes.
Okay, what is going to prevent someone in Hong Kong being like, seems like a good idea, it's getting some traction, let me make a stride right version?
No doubt.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So this is my thing is that, well, first of all, our legal counsel, he was the head of Adidas legal counsel. So he knows what he's doing.
How do you get that guy?
iGenerator, man.
iGenerator.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, everyone lives in Portland in that town, in the group, and that's like the shoe capital of the world.
Yep.
So he locked up our patents very well, and then it is going to happen. But this isn't a T-shirt you can rip off. It's not just a design; it's functional. So you have to understand how to do this and how to make it work, how to make it last and not break. It's not just a pocket T-shirt you can rip off. You know?
Yeah.
So there's a bit more thinking behind it.
Okay, so now I'm holding one in my hands, and it looks, the top looks, the truth is the whole thing looks like any cleat.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is the bottom studs have a little bit of give. So I'm digging on it with my thumb, and you can see it moving a little bit, and I got to push really hard. So how much movement is in here? And then walk me through what it changes biomechanically up the chain.
Yeah, so movement that you're feeling right now is less than 12 degrees of flexion in any direction.
Okay.
And that was tested in a biomechanics lab, and that actually proved to reduce rotational force from the ground up. So before the force propagates to the knee and the hip, it just dies at the ground.
And you knew that you ran the studies first and said, okay, we got to get this thing to 12?
No, but 12 was the sweet spot.
Okay.
So my first idea was to have different rigidity settings for different athletes. So like my little sister wouldn't use the heaviest one, but Ray Lewis would. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that's kind of specific in that way. But this was the sweet spot that tested the best.
Okay, so here's tell me exactly what you have run studies on to explain how this cleat works.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, everyone's seen an ACL tear. If you watch sports, you've seen someone tear ACL.
If you're listening to this pod, you've seen a million ACL tears.
Unfortunately, experienced one yourself.
Yep.
When you get stuck in the ground and that valgus position comes up and you got foot inversion, and everything's just every mechanism possible you need for ACL tear is happening. You can't move. That's the reason it happens. You're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
This just sets you free. That's it.
It just gives you enough motion that you're no longer locked in.
Just get away from the ground.
And then, so if I'm an elite level athlete, which I'm not,
you are.
Thank you. I'm worried he's going to put me on ice skates. Like I'm going to feel like I'm sloshing around. So how did you work through number one, that barrier? And then talk to me about, because I think this is maybe the biggest change that you've seen in the last 4 months. How do you know that it doesn't feel like that?
So we tested our cleat for performance at another university out west, and they did a bunch of the 1080 machines.
Sure.
Yeah, they did on that. They did pretty much like a pro day style training, a bunch of different drills, L drills, the cone drills, 40, whatever. And they tested our cleats compared to other cleats, like the other Nike, Adidas, whatever. There's not a millisecond slower. It's exactly the same. So
performance is the same.
Yeah.
And then you already had anecdotal data from athletes saying what?
So, I mean, you just moved it with your fingers. And that's like a novel concept to people. And it's a bit daunting. I understand that. But that is not enough for us to feel it. I mean, how tall are you?
6'3".
Yeah.
On a good day.
Good for you, by the way.
Yeah, thanks.
You're 6.5 feet away from the ground, essentially. You can't feel that. There's no way you can feel that.
Yeah.
People run them and they don't feel it at all. If we actually tested it, a few months ago with the high school team, they actually brought some pairs out and they worked out in practice. They hadn't heard of us. We hadn't blown up yet. And they're like, I like these kids. They're very comfortable. I'm like, cool. Do you know that these move? And they're blown away. They had no idea.
Interesting. Okay. And I'll say, here's my anecdotal testimony is I took it and put it on professional football players, and we went to the field. These are guys that you see playing every Sunday. They had no idea that those cleats moved. And then afterwards, I explained to them why it matters, and they loved, number one, they said they felt a little freer. So that kind of lines up with what it is you're trying to accomplish. They also love the grip of the cleat. Like they found it to be not the grip of the soles, but the way the shoe hugs your foot was some of the feedback I got.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, cleats kind of suck. I mean, like they're just uncomfortable. They're rigid. They're not anatomically correct.
Yeah.
We loaded this thing with padding and made it a little wider for people. So I mean, that's what you want in cleats. You know,
Yep.
You don't want to have to dread putting them on like everyone I know does.
Yep.
It should be almost a break for your feet.
Yep. And so that's definitely unique. That's definitely some of the feedback that I got, specifically around the cushioning and the way it hugs your foot. So that's awesome that you've kind of gotten there. Because one of the things you told me not to talk about in the last pod, that now we're okay, now it's kosher to talk about, to use a phrase that I love using, is some of the investments. So I'm interested in this on the business side. Because obviously you need money to create this startup. Just walk me through overarchingly how it is you got money and then some of your bigger investors.
Yeah. So I brought in, less than $100,000 years ago when the patent got approved from family and friends, because I knew what this thing was going to be and I wanted to get people involved who I cared about. And that paid for some research and development. And then recently we had a video go viral in January. We got like 4 million views overnight. And every day I had 100 emails to answer. And one of those emails, the name was Todd Heap. And I was like, there's no way.
Yeah.
That's my childhood.
It's a different Todd Heap.
Yeah. And I responded to him. I said, hey, man, I'd be happy to talk about the cleats. My number is my signature. Just give me a call if you want to know anything. And then I said, hey, if this is you, by the way, I'm a big fan. I'm from Baltimore, big fan. He immediately texted me and goes, ha, 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 it's me. I'll call you soon. I'm like, oh, that's
sick.
Todd Heap. So he's a big cleat guy. And he said he's interested because he had a deltoid ligament tear his third year in the league, which actually prevented him from making the third Pro Bowl in a row, which he was one of the best tight ends, but that kind of altered his career for the worse. And he got stuck in the ground and there was nothing to give. So he blew out his deltoid ligament. Weeks go by, we're talking. He's like, "If you're ever in Phoenix," I'm like, "I'm always in Phoenix. I'm not.
I'm never in Phoenix.
I was in Phoenix, but I was in Denver at the time, and I just put a feeler out there. I was like, "Hey, Todd, what are you doing on Friday?" And it was like Wednesday night. He's like, "Nothing. Let's get lunch." I'm like, "For sure." Literally got in my car and drove 13 hours to get lunch with Todd Heap. That kind of solidified it. And I said, "Hey, man, what if you made this like a Baltimore thing? We made this a Maryland thing. Like you played for Baltimore." He goes, "My best friends are Dennis and Joe still." I'm like, Dennis Pitt and Joe Flacco.
I've heard of them.
He goes, yeah, man. So we all give him a call. Dennis and Todd end up being financially involved and also as advisors. And then we kind of use Joe as not a test subject, but hey, where do you see if you like him? Hasn't taken him off. Played his games in them last week and this week.
Okay. Is that the first time he's worn them in an NFL game?
2 weeks. So not this past game that series ago, but the week before that when Richardson went down, he came in the game and wore them.
Okay, so he didn't wear them last year.
No.
And is that because he wasn't allowed to?
So he's still not allowed to.
Okay.
You can only wear Nike or Adidas in the NFL, and if you wear a different cleat, it has to be tested by the NFL, health and safety. And I'll touch on that later, but you can't have logos in your cleats. Really good fine. So what we did, we made Joe Flacco a pair. We kind of blacked out the whole shoe, so you can't tell what it is.
Yep.
But speaking of NFL, they actually called me 2 weeks ago and said, "Hey, we're getting a lot of calls about your cleats."
Who call? Okay, what does that mean when the NFL calls? Who calls? Roger Goodell. Hey, is this Jack?
No, it was health and safety.
Okay.
So they said players, trainers, equipment guys, everyone has called about cleats. There's so much demand. We need to test this cleat so they can wear it. I'm like, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think this call is actually long overdue.
Yeah.
So they're doing that right now. So hopefully they'll be able to wear them in a few weeks. And what we've done is that we've kind of made custom cleats for different teams. So if you have to have no logos and you have to have the same color as your team, that's a crazy fine.
Okay.
We don't want to pay.
Yep.
So we make custom cleats for NFL players they'll be kind of wearing them pretty soon. So yeah, it's like a different company from last time you talked.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Okay. So what's your vision for where you want to take this?
That's a tricky question because I just want to get these on people's feet. You take financial incentive out of this. I just want this to help the problem that we've been looking at for decades that no one's done anything to try to solve.
Yep.
I think it's wrong.
Arguably, we're worse at it.
For sure. So, if that's going with a bigger company, if that's making this company go for 20, 30 years, I don't know. I just want to get this on because there are people who want to wear this cleat because they've experienced an ACL tear. Then there are people who want to wear this because they don't want to experience ACL or injury or something like that. Then there are people who just want to wear them because, one, they feel better. They're made for athletes, and they reduce strain off your ligaments, no matter if you have an injury or not.
Yeah.
So I think all of those combined is reason enough to just try to get it out as many people as we can, because no matter what, it'll help.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy because I work with a lot of pro athletes, and I'll bring it up to them, or at least in the last 4 months, I brought it up to them because I'm so excited about the technology. And to your point, we run tons of ACL prevention clinics and workshops. And more people are tearing their ACLs, right? So I could see this as a game changer. So I'll bring it up to them. But now in the last 4 months, probably because of your social media presence, people are coming up to me, hey, I saw your pod with that guy, Jack, and what's that cleat called? Caddix Cleat. Do you think that would be good for these are like 30-year-old dudes who just kind of, so the market is massive. Really, your market is anyone who puts on a cleat, period. So, but what's your game plan to get them on everyone's foot? Because last we spoke, you had 2 sports you were going after. It was going to be a slow rollout. So talk me through where we are with that.
So the cleats are on their way from China. They're actually in the air right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
how long have they been in the air?
I don't know, a
couple days. Okay. It's a long flight.
No, but they're coming right now, and then we're going to kind of release all the inventory in December. So we have a pre-sale list sign up. We got a few thousand people signed up already on the website. But like you said, like the 30-year-old to play, like this is for athletes and people who think they're athletes.
Sure.
Like it's just, if you're going to play, you might as well do it, because at that age, at that training level, like you're probably more susceptible. I know you are, because you're not training, taking preventive measures. So, I mean, we're rolling out men's football, women's soccer / men's and women's lacrosse.
Okay.
This December, and then we already started making men's soccer for next year, and then different iteration of our kind of mid football cleat. We're going to introduce some alignment stuff as well. Okay, so what's the difference in manufacturing cleats for those segments? So actually, lacrosse cleats don't really exist. I don't know if you knew that or not. Yeah, I mean, I know New Balance has, I think what they'll say is a lacrosse cleat, but it's a football cleat. It's the same thing. Yeah. It's the same. All that's marketing. But if you make them correctly, they can be for both. Yep. That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, there's not difference at all in terms of lacrosse, soccer, football, and men's lacrosse. Yeah. So basically you're going to cover field sports. Talk to me about baseball, because I know those are unique. Yeah. Well, it depends what you play on in baseball, because they require metal studs. We're trying to figure out how to do that with our technology, which seems a bit daunting, but I think we can figure it out. But and then again, if you figured this crap out, this nonsense. Yes, this nonsense. You can figure anything out. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, baseball is great, and like especially softball. Like every single quarterback, I mean, football-wise, the quarterback is the rotational athlete, and so is a kicker. But who cares about kickers? You know what I mean? Yep. But softball, easy. Sorry. but softball, everyone's rotational athlete. Everyone has to throw their hip around. So, like, that's kind of, I mean, same baseball, too, is that's kind of where it's heading, is like, if you're doing the motion that suggests that you should tear your ACL, you should probably put something on that might prevent it. Okay. Well, talk to me about price point. Okay. So, men's football is $225. Is 125? 225. 225. And how does that compare to your standard Nike? The high end cleats are around that. They are. You can get cleats for cheaper, and they're not as well made. Yep. And then women's soccer is $250, which high end soccer cleats are close to $300. Okay, so you're a little bit under. Yeah, and they don't do anything for you. They're just there. Yeah, they're just there. So, I mean, people would pay more to wear a more comfortable cleat with no functionality. This is a more comfortable cleat that's better made, and it has functionality that's preventative. Yeah. So. Now, we've talked about this a lot. This is my science brain talking. Is there any chance that you run a study, a long duration study, where you can look at previous injury rates for a given subset and then compare them when they're in Caddix? It won't be the same athletes, but it'll be the same demographic. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the goal, is to get to a team and kind of look at it, the overall scope of what happened in the year. But it's crazy because it's tough to quantify, because there's so many variables that need to be aligned perfectly. Yeah. Like conditions, everyone's training regimens, weather, like just there's so many variables that go into that. But I think ultimately that's kind of going to differentiate this from a cleat or a helmet. Yeah. Is it a piece of footwear, or is it mandated because it actually works on the masses? So that's kind of interesting, because now you're starting to see the NFL mandating what type of helmet, right?
So could there be a world where they start to mandate some type of footwear?
I think so. I
That
think so.
that would make sense and make you a ton of money, but also help a ton of people.
For sure.
I love the idea of that and kind of where that would go. Hey guys, quick pause and a quick shout out to this new masterclass that we just launched here at True Sports Physical Therapy. Myself and Dr. Tim Stone put together a masterclass of ACL rehab, and we call it From Table to Turf. And the reason we call it that is because it's going to teach you exactly how to get your athlete all the way from post-op day one with the nitty-gritty of regaining all of that range of motion, with the tips and the tricks that we use here at True Sports Physical Therapy that gets our athletes better, faster, and stronger. And that's early. And then how do you progress that athlete all the way onto the field with a ball in their foot or a stick in their hand or whatever their sport is, and teach them how to accelerate, how to decel, how to change direction, all the mechanics that go in there. What drills do we use to get our athletes exactly where they need to be back on the field and even better than before injury? And I want you to sign up for that class. Now, you can find it on our website. You can shoot us a direct message and just say, hey, send me the course. It's right now on sale, so make sure you sign up now. It is fully accredited to get you all of your continuing education hours. Sign up for the True Sports Masterclass ACL, From Table to Turf. Thanks, guys. Walk me through like the next 2 years.
Next 2 years, I mean, we're gonna branch out. I mean, it's been 4 months since you and I talked, and we've, I don't know, I want to say quadrupled our busyness, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah, well, don't talk to me about business. Talk to me about business.
I don't even know if you know what that means. What does that
I
mean?
don't. Here's what I mean by that. Revenues, profit generation. Like, how much has that grown? Like, anyone can sell a cleat, but can you sell a cleat at a profit?
Sure. So our margins are getting not better because we're making custom things for the NFL.
Okay.
Which, by the way, is free marketing. So
Yeah.
that trickles down to sales.
Yep.
So it just depends if we keep going the way we're going, and if we're approved and making by the masses for the NFL and pro lacrosse and the NWSL. That's a different story. There's like 15 different ways the next 2 years could go.
Yep.
I think 2 of them aren't ideal. I think they're all positive. I mean, yeah, you have to sell cleats and make a profit, but it's also how you make them and where people are buying them.
Yep.
That's what matters.
So what's your plan there? How are you going to distribute these? Right now you have a few thousand pre-sold, right? Or at least people are on your wait list. So do you picture walking into Dick's and being able to buy these off the shelf, or do you picture this straight to consumer?
I think eventually Dick's is the way to go, like retail, like physical retail.
Mhm.
But right now we're direct to consumer, and I mean, people don't go to stores. Let's be honest.
Right.
You get some on Amazon. It's hard to do these days, but I think this should be in stores so a parent can go look at it and say, "Oh, that makes sense. It wiggles. I get it."
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I think that's the way to go down the road. Probably late next year. But
Do you think there's an avenue where it would help sales if you put them on athletes in store and there's a turf field?
yeah, so that's what I want to do is if we can kind of specify our display case.
Yeah.
Athletics have like a 5-yard strip of turf.
Yes.
Like just because Todd Heap said it best. Like people are nervous about that movement, and Todd was like, just put them on.
Right.
It'll all make sense.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think having the ability and access to wear them is going to be really.
You know who has a lot of turf? True Sports. We have a lot. Yeah, we have a lot of turf. Like, put this in PT's hands.
I'm going to give you a pair.
You've already given me a pair, but I love that idea because we got patients coming out of ACLs. They'll hear this pod, or they will hear me running my mouth about this, and they're like, "Why am I not wearing those?" Well, they're not out until, or they're only in these sizes. You're going to get rid of those barriers come December. You're going to have all sizes?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So that's amazing. I think I love the idea of the distribution network that PTs could provide you, or strength coaches, or athletic trainers. Like, there's so much that they can kind of do.
And that's kind of like not the bulk, but a good majority of who reaches out to us every day through direct message, LinkedIn, email, our PTs, our strength coaches, our equipment people. Like they have that immediate channel to customers. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to provide all PTs with this cleat, but you first, obviously.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you have a couple NFL legends. I'll call Joe Flacco that.
Sure.
I'll call Todd Heap
I
that.
think we should definitely call Joe Flacco a legend.
We should definitely call Joe Flacco. Is he elite?
Oh my God.
Okay, that was a Baltimore reference.
Different podcast.
Yes. It's a very different podcast. He is elite. So, okay, you have that guy involved. Then, if the NFL is starting to test it, let's say they say, Jack, we want to put this on every single athlete. Your sales are going to be bananas. Are you ready for that? Is there any reservation to like how you roll something like that out? Are you ready for that type of scale?
That scale, yeah. That would never happen in the NFL. But that scale, yeah. Numbers wise, yes.
Yeah. How do you do that? How do you manage inventory like that?
Very carefully.
Good answer.
And precisely. I mean, you don't like. I think the problem with shoe companies is that they just want to have better margins, so they just order millions of cleats.
Yeah, but then they have to sell them all
at a discounted rate. So, like, I mean, I don't know. There's something very exclusive about going to a website and seeing that they're sold out.
Yep,
you know
for sure.
So I think we order as needed, unless the NFL calls like, yeah, we need thousands. I'm like, okay, whatever you want, Mr. Goodell. So,
yep.
I mean, I just think you do it appropriately.
Like when I watch Shark Tank, Damon John is always talking about the way he manages inventory and how you need years and years of experience to figure out how to manage inventory based upon purchaser demand, right? How do you go about that with a startup?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, man, at some point you're kind of guessing. Like, let's call it what it is. And especially in a startup, especially a startup with such few sales because we've had no inventory, you kind of have to guess.
Yep.
I mean, it's an educated guess for sure, but it is a guess. So I think what will be very indicative moving forward is how we sell these 6,000 cleats that are on the way right now.
Yep.
I think if they go overnight or over a week, we're like, oh, okay.
We got to order 12 next time.
For sure. We should probably double or triple it. And then we implement men's soccer. And then it's a little bit of a guess, but it's all kind of based on what you do first. And what we're about to do first is going to kind of give us a good path.
Okay. That's awesome. Talk to me about men's soccer. Like when you go to attack a niche, what's your game plan there? You get, like you did with football, where you get a guy like Pitta and Heap to vouch for it. How do you roll it out into a new sport?
You got to find that person. You got to find that key player, like we did women's soccer. The Sharkles, KC Current. Like, I mean, you find a person that believes in it, can relate to it on like a visceral, like I had an ACL injury level, and they're the spokesperson, and they have the platform, they have the audience that you need that I don't have. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think going after one or two people that could help us push this thing with ease is how you do it. And also you just kind of get cleats to anyone you can. Like for the first 4 months, man, like we just sent cleats to everybody.
Yes, I can attest to that.
And they didn't even wear them. Like we just were like, hey, they're in the mail.
Yeah.
If you want them, they're yours.
Yeah.
So I think just getting your product in front of as many eyes as possible, whether it's through one person or just blindly sending to people and hoping it goes to the best. I mean, that's startup 101.
Yep. Yep. Talk to me about who runs the science side of Caddix.
So we have a medical advisor, Dr. Kirk McCullough. He was with the Kansas City Chiefs, KC Current, KC Sporting, and now he's the physician of the U.S. men's national soccer team.
Sick.
Yeah, I know. I agree.
Yeah.
He's our medical advisor, and like he kind of is he legitimizes us so much. I can talk to you about biomechanics up until this point, and then I call Kirk, and then Kirk comes in. So I think there's like 5 people in the world I would trust with this job, and he's one of them. Because I remember writing the patent when I was 19, and I remember recognizing his name on a patent I had a reference in my own. So this is his wheelhouse, it's his world, and I think he brings so much legitimacy to the table with his resume, with his career and industry experience that the science side is just call Dr. McCullough. Please.
Okay, so if I had Dr. McCullough here, we got to do that one day. If I had Dr. McCullough here, could he tell me how much this decreases the chances you tear your ACL?
I don't think anybody can tell you that, man. I don't think anybody can tell you that. I don't.
What could he tell me for sure?
He can tell you that it will work.
It will work how?
It will decrease the rotational force responsible for all the nasty stuff you see. Absolutely.
I think that's really strong. And then you did a good job of explaining this to me in the past. How does he know that?
So there are machines that the NFL, that the shoe.
Describe that machine as best you can.
Oh man. It's like this square apparatus, and the middle of it is a post, and it attaches to what's called a buck, which is like a shoe sole essentially.
Okay.
And you can put whatever amount of axial load you want. Like it's usually plated. So there's usually plates, and you twist it and rip it and try to break it, and it's like weird to watch because you're assuming it's someone's leg, and it kind of is, but it's they also use cadavers too, which is disgusting. But that is feeds into this computer or software or whatever, and it kind of shows you like when the release is. So like when does the cleat slip or release from the actual surface? That's how you know. So I've seen the studies of all the cleats, and ours, even with this is the last iteration we had, even with an old school plate and not optimal stud orientation and length, ours still release faster. And that release, because there's like a neuromuscular connection you have with injury, and you realize too late that you're in danger.
Yep.
And this just sets you free before you can do anything because you can't do it fast enough.
Okay, so that's fascinating. So they took your cleat, put it on a cadaver, or put it on this machine, and they determined that it decreases the force traveling up your kinetic chain 12-fold. Did I make that up?
I think you did.
Okay, it decreases it by how much?
That's a number that it's interesting because there's so many conditions that play in parts.
If I put a Nike cleat on that apparatus, how does it differ from this one?
It won't release as fast.
Okay, and define release again for me.
Just slipping from the turf.
Which is a positive in this instance.
Yeah.
Okay.
You might fall, but you won't be out for 9 months.
9 months on a good day.
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes a lot of sense. How do you put that into your marketing?
It's tough because there's a serious gap in knowledge when it comes to this stuff.
Yep.
So trying to I don't want to say dumb it down and offend anybody, but like dumb it down so people are like, oh, that makes sense.
Yep.
The social media guy is sitting 2 feet to my left.
Yeah.
He's good at taking data and numbers and kind of translating them into words people understand on like a very basic level. And again, not trying to offend anybody, but like if you don't know this, you don't know this.
No, but you can say it decreases forces through your body.
For sure.
To hopefully decrease injury.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we had a video one time, and Grant, social media guy, he was like planting in the position of an ACL tear, and that kind of sparked this like, oh,
that's what it does.
I understand why it moves now.
Yeah.
But people have to see it plain in sight, and I totally get it. It's a bizarre concept to think about because these have not been innovated in decades. So
okay, so I think I asked you last time, but it bears repeating. Is there any worry that these make athletes perform better, and therefore an NFL might look at it just like they say you can't build up the sole too high in a basketball shoe because it might make you too tall or something like that, where the NFL can say this is an unfair advantage to guys who wear them?
I wouldn't call it a worry, but I'd say there might be potential at some point that this could be viewed as performance enhancing. I would say that. Because if you think about what the elastic nature of our studs do, they alleviate force and then they return force.
Yeah. And
that return force could be propelling someone in a certain direction or move, or it's like a curved track almost.
So that's a good analogy. The good news is when you ran these performance studies, athletes performed exactly the same. It's not like they did better in the L drill in Caddix versus outside. So I think that's a strong point.
Yeah, and I think too, like, I don't want to call it a placebo. These work, but performance-wise placebo, like we tested these with the quarterbacks, and like they throw and they said they feel their hip more through and they get more like whip. And that makes sense to me for sure. And would I call it performance enhancing? Probably not. But we haven't measured the velocity of a throw and all that stuff in the distance. We just measured linear, lateral. So I think there's a lot more stuff we can do with that to try to get to that number and that exact answer. But for right now, I'd say no.
No, good answer. I would love to see this thing on pitchers. Sure. Yeah. I would love to see what this does to a fastball.
I know. I think about that all the time. Because like I said, it relieves force and then it has to return it.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I also wonder what it would do to stress on an elbow, if anything. and maybe nothing. But if you're able to rotate cleaner and create at least a freer motion from your lower body, we know that translates to your upper body when you're throwing a pitch.
Yeah.
We know that when the elbow runs out of elasticity, that ligament ruptures, your UCL. So I wonder what that would do.
I mean, my first thought is if you get more hip into your throw with these things, you get less elbow.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay.
I would think it would be a positive, especially if the athlete isn't reporting any negative. So that's kind of interesting. It's a little far away from the elbow joint, but I've taken so many baseball courses where all we do is talk about foot ankle mechanics as it pertains to pitching. So there's definitely crossover there. That's really interesting. You said you're not worried about the performance side. What is your biggest fear with Caddix right now?
I mean, in the back of your mind as a small business owner, you always worry about the big dogs trying to come squash you. But I will say this. We're pissing a lot of people off. We are.
Yeah.
We definitely are. In a good way, because we're actually doing something. And I think companies would love to sue Jack Rasmussen. But companies would never sue Todd Heath and Dennis Pitta and Caleb Sharp.
What would they possibly sue you for?
Well, they'll find something. They always do. But I think ultimately that safety net that we brought in as investors and advisors, that's going to be worth more than we can imagine probably soon.
Have you had to or gotten to say no to any professional athlete investors?
Yeah, a bunch.
And what made you do that?
So Todd and Dennis and Caleb bought in at a time where we weren't who we are today, and that is admirable. You know what I mean? That is, and they saw it for what it is. And all three of them had injuries that altered their career. And now that we tripled our followers, now that we've had sales, now that we have professional athletes, everyone wants to be a part of it. We had a call 2 days ago with someone. We just say no. He's a quarterback, and he's a current quarterback in the NFL, and we just say no.
Wow.
Yeah, and we didn't want to. We're like, what did we just do? Did we just say no to this guy?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, everyone wants to get involved now. That the nitty gritty stuff is almost done, But no, Todd and Dennis and Caleb, that's who we're rocking with.
When they write the book Cleat Dog about you, what story am I going to be shocked to see in that? I already mentioned the housekeeping, so it can't be that.
Well, you should have some references. Blatantly called me a housekeeper. I don't know, man. This is the very by any means necessary time. I bought a brand new car in May, and I hit 19,000 miles last week. Because I drove in the country for the past 4 months. And
doing what? Handing them out?
Showing people cleats, going to colleges, talking to pros, everything.
So this is a good follow-up. As an entrepreneur myself, how did you kick down those doors? How'd you get McCullough?
Yeah.
How'd you get McCullough? He came to you, but how did you get these guys, someone to actually listen to you?
Well, I think it's so he came to me, yeah, but I also drove 13 hours to get lunch with him.
You did.
For sure. I think seeing my level of commitment, these guys will tell you, I'm absolutely a psycho. You have to be. You have to be. Kirk was actually easy. I emailed him once to get on the phone call. And it took me 3 months of negotiating with him to get on board, which is an easy sell for us in Caddix.
Mm-hmm.
But for example, Pat McAfee the other day had Joe Flacco on. And before Joe Flacco came on, he was talking about our cleats. And Pat McAfee goes, yeah, they sent us a pair or two. And we're like, no, we didn't. So Grant and I got in my car, and we found his address, and we drove to the studio that day from Kansas City, and we sat outside his gate and we gave him a pair of cleats.
What did he say?
Well, we gave it to his co-host because he put that the back way because he saw us standing there. But that's what you have to do. That's kicking the door down. You have to.
I love that. So what was Flacco saying to him about the cleat?
So I guess Pat just kind of had heard. Flacco went viral wearing the cleats the other day when someone posted about it. So I guess Pat was kind of asking him about it, and Joe was like, yeah, it's a good idea. It just reduces stress. Joe's just a super cool guy.
Yeah.
He was just talking about it. But Pat was like, it prevents Achilles injuries, and I was like, I gotta go get him a pair of cleats. This is gonna be bad for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then they had pictures and videos of him wearing the cleats, and just it was good. It was great for us for sure. But I want to make sure they have a pair in the studio so they can look at it, talk about it, and kind of see it firsthand.
Who's the most famous ACL rupture in the last 3 years?
I don't know if it's 3 years, maybe 4 years, but Odell Beckham. For sure.
Okay. Great call.
Yeah.
How do you get these on Odell Beckham?
I mean, so I will say this. This is another reason that Todd Dennis is so big, is because they're a phone call away from anybody.
Yeah,
involved.
sure. In that world.
Yeah, for sure. And that's just, I mean, that's just networking. But the thing is, with these athletes, like, it's got to be right timing.
Yep.
Like their schedules, their game, their travel, and everything's so nuts. You have to give them the right time.
Yep.
That's it.
Okay. So, but that's true. I'm just trying to like bring it home, especially, we're talking to an audience of sports PTs. So it's worthwhile like hearing the science behind it. It's worthwhile hearing the business behind it, because so much of your story resonates with me from what I had to go through to start what I'm doing. But when we go to market to orthopedists, even by the way, athletes, very similar. You have to be super strategic with how you do it. And I'm sure McCullough would say this, orthopedists are like the busiest people in the world. Professional athletes think they're the busiest people in the world. So it's like, how do you find that right time to hit them when they're going to hear you?
Yeah. You go after them at all times, and you figure out which one works. That's what we've done.
And so what have you found that works? That's a good answer, but what have you found that works?
I mean, like specific time examples of athletes. Usually, like mornings. Like if you get them, because I mean, I was a college athlete. Athletes are divas. Let's call it what it is.
Yes.
I mean, so if you get them when they get out of bed, they're like just like hanging out and like on their phone, and like practicing until 2, and like that's kind of a good area to do it. I'd say collegiately past noon, you got no shot.
Okay.
And NFL wise, it just kind of depends.
Yeah.
Like we talked to a quarterback the other day, and like he had an O-line dinner that he didn't know about, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's fair. Like,
Yep.
But it just depends. But just entrepreneur wise, you have to just try every time until you found one that works.
So, and really, what you're saying is you, the entrepreneur, have to make yourself available. There are no off times. So if this guy wants to meet for coffee or whatever, 16 hours away, you have to figure out how to get your ass there. I think that's really good advice. I think that's something that I struggled with early on, but also people that I work with, they want it to fit their schedules. That doesn't happen.
You got to give a little bit, man.
You got to give more than a little bit.
I literally got here at 1, sat in my car, I had a Zoom call, and came right in here at 1:20.
Yep.
So,
and you were on the money.
I got lost, but I was on the money.
But you were here at 1:20.
Sure.
Okay, that's fair. So if that's the most famous ACL, is Achilles your market?
No.
Because you don't know, because it's not rotational?
Everyone's trying to figure that out still. I mean, Dr. McCullough kind of said it best. I asked him the same thing. I'm like, how do you do that? Achilles is like, I don't know if you can, like yet. But that's more of a fatigue-based injury. You either push something too hard, or you go into it right away without proper training. And he said you see Achilles kind of at the end of the season, Super Bowl, or beginning of the season, Aaron Rodgers. So it's kind of, you see it kind of where it's a long period of improper loading, or it's a fatigue thing. That's what I think. That's also not rotational. So
versus ACL, which can happen at any time.
For sure.
Although I would say that it goes up with fatigue.
Yeah, I mean, everything does.
Yeah.
And it's also what you play on. I mean, there's been studies that I read 10 years ago that the outside of the field have more traction because there's no alignment like banging around.
Interesting.
So receivers and DBs are like, they're kind of the first ones to go because there's so much grab,
That's very interesting. I never thought of that.
Yeah. And like, and this whole debate about grass and turf, man, they both suck.
What's your take?
They were both terrible. There were more injuries last year on grass in the NFL than turf.
True Sports Physical Therapy is growing like wildfire. We have 14 locations, soon to be more. We are throughout the state of Maryland. We're in Pennsylvania, in Lebanon, in York, Pennsylvania, as well as in Delaware, in Newark and Wilmington, Delaware. Like I said, so many more practices to come, and we always need outstanding sports physical therapists. Our treatment style is unique. We are one-on-one with your athlete for 45 minutes every single session. You do the entire treatment. You do the entire evaluation, and they are in state-of-the-art facilities where you have room to run, throw, and jump, and really get your athlete all the way back to on the field and better and stronger than they were We also have outstanding salaries, comp structures, bonus abilities, 401ks, as well as a very strong continuing education offering, including in-house continuing education. And we're looking for you. Now is the time, as we are growing like crazy. Just shoot your resume over to Yoni, Y-O-N-I, at True Sports PT, or shoot us a DM, and we will hit you back. We will get you in for our unique, tried and true interview process and really make a determination that this is the right place for you to grow your career and get your athletes better than ever. We can't wait to hear from you.
So if that's the case, if it's like let's say you have solved or at least put a dent in the ACL epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think they were happening more often, or they are happening more often?
This is okay.
You are definitely qualified to answer this based upon everything you've been through. So don't give me that caveat.
I'd say it's. I mean, look, if you got injuries on grass and turf, what's the common denominator? It's what you put in your feet. Call it what it is. You know what I'm saying? We're also training at a rate that I don't think our bodies can keep up with, man. You got people running. You got Derrick Henry's, who's the size of a left tackle, running 23 miles an hour.
It's pretty insane.
In full pads.
In full pads. That was pretty insane.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I love watching it. But like, I don't know. It's just, you're going to wear cleats on no matter what you play on. That is the only common variable. Weather's not the same. You're playing indoor, you're playing outdoor, but like, you're always wearing cleats. And I don't know if like I said, fatigue is always playing a crucial part in injury.
Yeah. And also it's important to delineate between, when you say fatigue, between acute and chronic. Mm-hmm. And I think there were a couple teams, I know the Eagles were one, that significantly cut down on their practice time and managed to stave off injury more consistently. So I think there's an overtraining aspect to this too. And that's one of the difficult things. The off seasons have just gone away. I'm not even just talking about pros. I'm watching these lacrosse kids like kill it over the summer, and then I'm watching them do winter stuff, and they're playing fall, and their summer bleeds into the fall. There is no off season.
Yeah, Kayla Sharples for the Current, our investor advisor, her season is done November and she starts in February.
So it's crazy.
That's an insanely long season with no break, pretty much.
With no break. And what are they doing? They're doing one match a week? In season?
Yeah, give or take.
So that's crazy. But I'm also always amazed how quickly baseball goes back. Yeah. Like if you play into the postseason, before you know it, pitchers and catchers report. And now the same thing with the NFL. Like they just start so goddamn early, especially if you make a late run. It is crazy. And I think that's why the recovery science has come along nicely. This seems to be a massive missing piece.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it because it's mine, but I think
I'm saying it and it's not mine. I think it's really interesting because, to your point, like what have we seen change in footwear in the last? Nothing.
Everything. We actually made it worse.
How so? Too much padding.
Traction.
I don't know. Too much.
No, I mean, traction is the driver of performance, no doubt. It's linear, it's lateral, it's rotational, it's everything about it. But that's also why you injure yourself. I mean, if you go and look at any SEO marketing on cleats, type it in, and it's grip plate Viper 12 that makes you run faster, and you can it's just that's all driving injury rates.
Yeah,
that's the only innovation that's been done, and they're lighter because there's nothing inside of them supporting your ankle. There's nothing inside of them supporting your ankle.
So that's interesting. It's also, if anything, we have ramped up how sticky we are.
For sure. And it's convenient that we're just saying it's the turf's fault. That's not a coincidence, my friend. It's not.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
If anything, we've made it worse. I think that was your point. I was saying we've gone crazy throwing padding on the bottoms of running shoes, and we've gone crazy. What drives me insane, I wonder what your thoughts are on this. Athletes going to running stores and saying, what shoe do you recommend for this type of foot, to the college kid who's working the desk at your local run store? What the hell do they know? B, who's pushing that? Yeah. Brooks has a deal with this given running store, and that's what's outfitting. So that's why I love that you've gone the route of running studies and trying to see how much torque does this decrease. What does this do to injury rates? I'm telling you, you can get a good study on that.
No, for sure, we will. But like you just said, this is all politics. Everything about this industry is politics, for sure.
Everything about every industry,
no doubt,
might be politics. Now we're really tin hatting it. Okay, so give me a little bit more. Tell the audience kind of what you want them to know about Caddix and how the hell they can get them on either their feet or athletes' feet.
Yeah, so I like to preface this with saying that I'm not doing this for money. I actually don't like money. I think if you gave me X amount of money tomorrow and my family's taken care of, I'd probably give it away, like, to be honest with you. This isn't to get rich. If I have a fly fishing rod and a bike, I'm happy the rest of my life. I swear to God, I am. So, I mean, this isn't just like product placement. Like, Yoni's my friend. Like, I always want to help him. He wants to help me. Like, this is just kind of what we're doing right now. So, before I sell this cleat to you guys, I want you guys to know, like, I'm not just trying to sell it to you guys.
Yep.
This works. It does. And if it didn't work, it's still comfortable and it's better for your feet than probably anything you can buy in Dick's.
And it costs the same. That's what's interesting to me.
Yeah, and it costs the same of a higher end cleat in any sort of company.
Yep.
Across the board. But we have countless texts and emails saying that, hey, I had crappy ankles in high school because my basketball career or whatever, and like I wear these and my ankles feel great. And we actually had a quarterback at an FBS school. It was like, hey, my turf toe is gone. And we're like, oh, we didn't even do that. Great. So,
sorry about that.
So like, I mean, his turf toe like feels great now with this. And like, I mean, everyone's strain and stress on their ligaments are better. Like, it's just, it works. And it's not because it's mine. It literally works. If I was on your podcast as a housekeeper.
Yes. Can you just clarify that so I don't sound like I'm calling you names?
Okay. I will. But if I was on here just like a buddy of yours, I'd be like, this works. Like, absolutely works.
Define works. Because I think that's important.
It does its job. It reduces strain on your ankles, knees, potentially hips.
Period.
That's it. It does. And if you've played sports before or you watched sports before, you know exactly what that movement can do.
Yeah.
And we always have like, I don't know, middle school vice principals in our comments saying, this will never work. And I'm like, I don't know. You teach history. I don't know. It might. So,
it might.
So, all right, housekeeper.
Yeah, housekeeper.
I was a housekeeper. I was 19 when I started doing this in National Park in Utah. I was making a bed and I was like, man, I got to get out of this.
Why were you doing that?
It was a pretty national park, Zion National Park.
Yes, been there. Amazing.
Incredible.
Amazing. So, quick story, which isn't that interesting, but it's not that interesting. I spent a lot of family trips, either going to Ocean City, Maryland. I assume you've been there, and to Israel. And I'm like, I'm trekking around Israel. I'm like, this is God's country. Like, oh my God, this is beautiful. You can ski in the north, and 4 hours later, you can scuba in the south on the same day. It's bananas. And I just thought that was Israel, but I didn't know because the other thing I knew was Thrasher's French fries. Like, that's the only other thing I knew. But when I went out to Zion, I was in college and I staffed a teen tour. I'm looking around Zion National Park and I'm like, holy cow.
It's special, man.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
So I was a housekeeper there, and my dad and I talked about this idea the year before I went to Zion. Just 19, just want to get out of Maryland, just want to do something. And I was like, man, I'm not gonna make beds forever. Like, nah, ain't no way I'm doing this. So that day I left work, I went to Goodwill, I bought a cleat, tore it apart, like watched how it worked. I actually got some paper clips, rubber bands, and like made it spin. I was like, okay, literally quit my job. And the next day I drove to Maryland and I was like, I'm gonna do this full time. So that was,
and that turned into this.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
That's bananas. Is there any, just as I pick it up, I'm thinking, what are you going to change this at all? Like, what do you think your next iteration is going to be?
I think we're going to figure out how to make it wider. I just think our toes need to breathe in terms of the plate. Okay, wider plate, which would equal a wider toe box? Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it'll be necessarily a wide cleat, but I think it'll be pretty close to a wide cleat.
Is that what you're talking about with the lineman? Like, is it going to be larger?
No, so linemen need, so if you have a mid cleat, there's a sock line that goes up.
Okay, it comes up higher.
That sock's just a sock though, but linemen, that'll all be padding because you need that support up top.
Okay.
Yeah. And the heel spikes will probably just remain how they are.
And you just think that this doesn't have any effect upstream, the heel cleat?
It does in a landing situation. Like when you land heel to toe quickly,
Yep.
you get that tibial translation. That
Yeah.
does a little bit, but that's extremely rare.
What made you not put the movable cleat in the hind foot?
It's just more frequent up in the toes. I mean, that's how you run, that's how you plan, that's how you turn toes.
Yep.
So
Okay. Is there any detriment to putting it in there? Does it cost more? Like what?
I mean, it definitely costs more, but like that's not how we did do it. It just makes more sense to have that thing rigid back there and then have everything else where the force is being distributed up front.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Then tell us how we get them. Do you want people on that list? Do you like, where are we funneling?
Yeah. So on the website, if you go down to the bottom of the first page, you'll find there's a bar you can put your email in and just hit. I think the button is like submit or whatever. It's just your email in the newsletter. We send one out every week, and whoever's on that list has first access to inventory. So when these kids come over here in like 2 weeks, we're going to open pre-sale just for newsletter subscribers.
Okay.
And given the numbers we have already,
You might sell out.
we might not have any more after that.
Yeah.
So yeah, go online, check us out, put your email in. Instagram is Caddix Cleats, so is Twitter or X. Sorry, Elon.
Yep.
So yeah, just check us out and learn more. Like I'm more than happy to respond to emails from anybody who has questions. Anybody, I'd be happy to. I actually like doing it.
Even if your name's not Todd Heap.
Even if you're not Todd Heap or Dennis, you can still email me. I'll get back to you in 48 hours.
That's pretty awesome, and I can definitely attest to that. That your response time is better than my response time. So, no doubt. It's not saying much. It's really awesome to see where you've come, even in these 4 months. I mean, these 4 months have been bananas. So, to get you back on and hear how it's just grown over the last 4 months. I bet you we do this again in 4 months. And you have even more stories and more investors. I love hearing it. Obviously, I'm so passionate about the sports medicine side. So I love hearing that you're trying to change sports injuries for the better, that you are innovating on a technology that hasn't been touched and could be a missing link into all the injuries that we've been seeing. And I freaking love your hunger. It's awesome. It's awesome. So inspirational. I'm so happy you came on to share this story with our audience. We got great feedback on the first one. Check them out, CaddixCleats.com.
Caddix.com.
Damn it.
Sorry.
Caddix, CADDIX. I'm looking right at it. .com. And get on the listserv, get the emails, and buy them when they come out. Jack, great freaking story, man. Thanks for coming in. All right, everyone, thank you for listening. Let us know what we did outstandingly. Let us know what you want to hear more of. If you want to hear more Jack, I would love to have him back on next week. Maybe I'll have another story for us. Anything you want to hear from us, True Sports PT on Instagram. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.